And happy is, the connotation of happy is a little off, I think. If you let us define it the way it should be, I think it's okay. But really blessed, to be blessed is the idea of this. And so to be blessed, these are things you need to do. I don't want to weary you with this, and you only have to put up with it a couple more times, Lord willing, but I want to read through it each time to get the whole section. Hopefully when we get done with this study, it'll almost come to us by memory. Matthew 5, beginning verse 1. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Here's our one tonight. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Okay, so that's the whole set of the Beatitudes, and the one that we want to study tonight is the 6th out of 8. Blessed are the pure in heart. When you think about this statement, obviously here's our blessedness, right? Pure in heart is the emphasis. And I think the very first observation that we make from this is an obvious one, and that is that God looks at our heart, not at our outward actions. And so, somebody may put on a really good show outwardly, but God knows what's in the heart. And all of us need to be aware of that constantly. It's not enough to go through the motions. We've got to have a right heart, because that's what God is looking at. God looks at our heart, not just our outward actions. A big problem in Jesus' day was that certainly among at least the religiously elite Jews, that they were just going through sort of a ceremonial, ritualistic service, and it seemed that their hearts were not involved, their hearts were not right. And notice what Jesus said to them. And he over and over again, he said, Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you liken unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. This is a pretty graphic description. Wouldn't you agree with me? So, what if you went to a restaurant and the waitress comes carrying out your food? Maybe you got a salad or a soup or something, and you're not seeing inside yet. But from the outside, the serving bowl looks nice, clean, presentable. But when she sets it down on the table, you realize that the inside of it hasn't been washed or cleaned in maybe forever. It's just gross and nasty inside. Well, that's a horrible depiction, isn't it? But Jesus said that's what it's like. It's what the scribes and Pharisees were like. They look good on the outside, but inside just rotten and corrupt. And I know that you've heard us explain this whited sepulcher business, the second description. So we know that under the laws of the Jews, if you made contact with or in any way came into contact with a dead body, you became unclean. And then you had to go through rites of purification to be made clean again. So when the Jews buried, often they used caves. Sometimes they dug sepulchers out. But when they sealed them up, so they put the dead people in there, and obviously the people who are burying the dead person, they're going to have to go through rites of purification. But you don't want to do that accidentally. So they put the dead bodies in, they sealed the tomb, and they whitewashed the outside of it. And the whitewashing wasn't for decoration so much as it was, be warned. Be warned that this is a burying place. Be warned that inside are dead men's bones. And so, but Jesus says, well, this looks good. So if you look at a sepulcher, it looks okay outside. It looks nice outside. It's been whitewashed. It looks fine. inside, corrupting bodies, dead men's bones. So you get the picture. And from that, you take away what we see over and over and over again in scriptures, that God looks at our hearts. And the thing of it is, he knows. I mean, when he looks, he sees perfectly and accurately. God looks at our hearts. Jesus quoted in Matthew 15, verse 8, he quoted Isaiah. And he said, Isaiah said, and Jesus repeated what Isaiah said, "This people draweth nigh to me with their mouth and honoreth me with their lips." But notice, their heart is far from me. The heart was the issue, right? So, when Jesus then in this beatitude that we're discussing, when he says, "Blessed are the pure in heart," that's the inward man, and that's what God's looking at, and that's what's got to be right. So I want to emphasize our outward actions are not unimportant. I don't leave that impression. Certainly, it's important what you do, and we talk about that a lot. But our heart has to be right too. And if we're just going through outward actions, and our heart is not right, then the outward actions don't count for anything either. And we need to remember that. Any thoughts before we move further on this? Blessed are the pure in heart. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the heart. Man's heart, and you know this, and we've talked about this plenty of times, this is not talking about our blood pumper, right? This is not talking about a heart that's in our chest that moves the blood throughout our body. Obviously, a very important organ in the body, but this is more than that. And it's not talking about the heart in the sense of the blood pump. This is talking about the seat of our intellect, emotion, and will. And I want to go to some verses that show this. What do we do with our hearts? Okay, what do you do with your heart? Well, here's some verses, and real quickly, just turn to these. We'll just go to these real quick. Matthew 9, verse 4, Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, "Wherefore think ye evil in your heart?" You think in your heart. That's not this, that's this, right? You think in your heart. You reason in your heart. Mark chapter 2, verse 6. Mark 2, verse 6. There were certain of the scribes sitting there and reasoning in their hearts, "Why doth this man thus speak blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God only?" Immediately when Jesus perceived in his spirit that they so reasoned within themselves, he said unto them, "Why reason ye these things in your heart?" So there again's the heart, right? The heart is where you think things through. You reason, you consider, and you ponder, and you put things together, and you draw conclusions. You reason in your heart. Luke 2, verse 19 says that we ponder things in our heart. Luke 2:19, Mary, the mother of Jesus, kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. Things about Jesus, things about her firstborn. She kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. Obviously, so what we're talking about here is our intellect, our reasoning capabilities. One more here. With the heart, you understand. Matthew chapter 13, verse 15. Matthew 13, 15. Jesus said, "This people's heart is waxed gross, their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their hearts, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them." Notice you understand with your heart. So in all of that, I want to suggest to you that the heart is the seat of our intellect. It is our thinking power. It's what we know. It's the information that we acquire and hold on to. And so if you're going to go to school, you're going to school to learn something, a trade or a particular subject, they're working on your intellect. They're working on supplying information to your thinking capacities. With the heart, you come to know things. think, reason, ponder, understand. But that's not the only thing we do with the heart. With the heart is the seat of our desires too. Look at Romans 10, verse 1. Paul says in Romans 10, verse 1, "Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved." So Paul had a desire in his heart for his Jewish brethren. He wanted them to be saved. You desire things in the heart. Matthew 22, verse 37, Jesus said to them, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind." You love with the heart. You sorrow in your heart. John 16:6. "Because I have said these things unto you, sorrow hath filled your heart," he said. But then later in the same chapter, in 16:22, he says, "Ye now therefore have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart shall rejoice, and your joy no man taketh from you." So you sorrow and rejoice in the heart. And so from these verses that all mention the heart, we would draw the conclusion that the heart is the seat of our emotions. So the intellect is what you know. The emotion is how you feel, right? Now, one of the problems is that a lot of people are just totally focused on emotion. A lot of religious people in our day and time are just totally focused on emotion. That's not enough, right? You've got, your emotions have to be connected with that which is true. You have to know the truth. Being emotional about it is absolutely appropriate, but you can't have emotion. Your emotion is not proper if it's not properly based in understanding. So your intellect has to be involved, your emotion has to be involved, but there's some more things here. One of the things that we do with the heart is that we purpose, or we make plans and intentions. Look in Acts 11, verse 23. You remember Barnabas had been called to Antioch, where there were Christians. In Acts 11, verse 23, when he came and had seen the grace of God, he was glad and exhorted them all that with purpose of heart they would cleave to the Lord. So you purpose, you commit yourself, you plan, you determine. In fact, look at that word determine in 1 Corinthians 7. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 37. "Nevertheless, he that standeth steadfast in his heart, having no necessity, but hath power over his own will, and hath so decreed in his heart that he will keep his virgin, doeth well." Remember, Paul was dealing with in that context, is it a good thing to get married or to stay single? And he was dealing with the present distress. There was a lot of persecution. They were facing a lot of hard times. And he says, if you determine in your heart that you can stay single, do that. It's a good thing if you can, but you got to make that determination in your heart. And then one more place, well-known verse, Romans 6:17. Romans 6:17, Paul says, "God be thanked that ye were the servants of sin, but you have obeyed from the heart that form of doctrine which was delivered to you." So you obey from the heart. So here I would argue that the heart is the seat of our will. It's where we commit to do something. So with intellect, you learn and know. With emotion, you feel. And with your will, you commit to do. And all of that is in the heart. Certainly very important, I think, that it has to be based in knowledge. Sometimes I think we're wrongly accused to say we just completely downplay the importance of emotion. And if that's true, then that's bad, because emotion in the heart is certainly needed. But we also have to have a will, a commitment, a desire in the heart to do the will of God. That's with all of that, then, that leads us to make full commitment. So, again, know what he's talking about when he's talking about the heart. He's talking about where we do all of this, our intellect, our emotion, and our will. All right, having said that then, pure. Let's talk about pure. So hopefully we got the heart part well defined. Now let's talk for a minute about the pure, the word that was used for pure. So the heart is where we think, what goes on in our thinking process. And it also involves how we follow through with our actions. By the way, let me back up just a minute. Before we pass from this business of the heart, we've talked about this before. You remember there was a very common error in the first century. The Gnostics were guilty of it, and some others too, who said, you serve God with your heart. This is all inward. What you do with your body, it doesn't matter because you can't control your body anyway. Your body's just going to do its own thing. You serve God with the heart. The body will go ahead and do whatever the body is going to do. It's not that important. Totally wrong, right? Totally wrong. Pure in the heart is going to be manifested in what we do, and so I think that's important. All right, let's talk about pure. The word pure here is from a Greek word, katharos, found 28 times in the New Testament. It's variously translated as pure, clean, clear. All right? So I'll give you a couple of examples. Wait a minute. Before I do that. Okay, all right. I think I've got this in, that's not where I want to put that. Hang on a minute. Yeah, okay. Pure is used to describe things that are clean, as in soiled clothes that have been washed. Now, probably a lot of you guys are like I am, and it's pretty easy. Just about as soon as you walk out the back door toward the garage, you're going to get your clothes soiled, and then the wife is going to have to wash them. She's going to have to launder them. And so pure is a word used to describe clean, like in soiled clothes that had been washed. That's a pretty easy picture to get. Pure is also used as in something that has not been mixed. It hasn't been mixed with something else. For instance, this word would be used to describe grain that had been winnowed and was free of the chaff. You've probably seen it. We've got machines that do that now, but you've no doubt seen pictures or videos of the old-fashioned way with a winnowing fork. They would take the grain and throw it up in the air and let the wind blow the light chaff away, so that the grain that fell back down would be free of the chaff. It would be pure. And this word, pure, would be a word used in that fashion. It would also be the word used of pure gold. That is gold that hasn't been mixed or alloyed with something else. Usually gold is mixed with some other metal, because gold oven by itself is pretty soft and easily deformed. And so usually, like if you have a gold ring or a gold necklace, they even rate it, 24 karat, 14 karat. That has to do with the purity of it. Most gold is not absolutely pure because it's too soft. But pure gold, this is the word that would be used to describe pure gold. That is, it has not been mixed with anything else. Okay? So, clean and unmixed. And so, can we put that together and have this as our understanding of the expression? And I hope this is what we can carry away. Pure in heart denotes one whose thoughts are clean and whose devotion is undivided. All right? So I'm not going to be thinking bad things. And I am just 100% committed to the will of God. I'm not trying to do two things. I'm not trying to serve God, but do something else in my life as well. I have undivided devotion to God. My devotion to God is not mixed up with other worldly pursuits. God is my first and most significant priority. It's the idea of Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Other things will be added to you. Undivided. Thoughts or comments here? I've been doing all the talking. Somebody's got something to say. Anybody? Wayne? Dots? Anybody? Huh? Okay. So pure in heart then. So here's where this is the takeaway I'd like you to have. Thoughts are clean, devotion undivided, pure in heart. So it's more than just what you think, but it involves what you think, but it's what your thinking leads you to do, is the idea of pure in heart. All right, now, how do you develop that? I want this, right? All of these things that we've been talking about are things that we ought to really strongly desire. And I think all of them, as we've been pointing out week by week, these are all things that are on a scale that keeps on going. It never ends, right? I can never say in regards to purity of heart, I have achieved purity of heart. I can check that off, and I don't ever have to think about it again. I got that. I've accomplished that. I'm all done on that. That it's not that sort of thing. And so this is something I can keep working at. Wherever you are spiritually right now, you're on a spectrum in regards to purity of heart, and you need to keep moving up that scale. How do I do it? Well, first of all, you've got to think about what's right. Remember, we said back up here when we were talking about what the heart does, the heart's the seat of our thinking processes, right? The heart is where we do our thinking. Therefore, if you want to be pure in heart, then you've got to think on the right things. Proverbs 23 verse 7 says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The expression that always comes to mind when we're talking about this is thoughts precede actions. And the reasons why it's so important to control our thoughts is because if we don't, and you allow yourself to think on bad things, then you will end up doing bad things. Thoughts precede action. So it's wrong to think on bad things, and then the additional complication, if you think on wrong things, you'll end up doing wrong things. So you've got to think right. By the way, let me back up a minute. Well, I'm going to get back here in a minute. I'm going the wrong way here. Okay, I'm back to think on the right thing. I just want to stress before we pass from that I think that we are in maybe the most perilous of all times in regards to this simple point. I don't think we live in the worst of all times. I'm not saying that. I think the people who went before us obviously had things a lot harder than we do when it comes to serving God. But in regards to policing our thoughts, I believe these may be the most perilous times because we live in the age of modern media. And there are so many avenues whereby evil things are presented. And if we allow ourselves to dwell on those things and think about those things, we're in trouble. And so, again, if I want to be pure in heart, obviously I got to control my thinking processes, and I got to control the information and the images and all of the various bits of information that is constantly being fed into my mind. I think we're in dangerous times in that regard. We've got to think on right things. We have to love the right things. So remember, part of purity of heart is clean thoughts, and the other part is undivided devotion. If we love God more than anything else, if we love the right things, then we'll be able to have this undivided devotion that is so critically. You cannot really, really, really desire the things of the world. I really would love to do this, the nasty, horrible, immoral thing. I really would love to do this, but I know that I can't, and so I won't. Although oh man, you talk about a strong desire for this very awful thing. I have a very strong desire for it, but I'm not going to do it because I'm going to force myself to abstain from it, although that is my strong, deep desire to be engaged in that kind of activity. That doesn't get the job done, and it won't. I don't think it might. That approach might work for a little while, but in the long run, I don't think it works. I think eventually that fails. We've got to love to the right things and doing the right things. Colossians 3, verses 1 and 2. If ye then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. So, this is a pretty straightforward statement, I think. Paul is saying, what do you love? Where are your affections? Do you really love the things of the world? Now, you're trying to not do those things because, you're just not supposed to. But you really love it. You really love the things of the world, and you would really, really enjoy being able to participate in the things of the world. Then that's not indicative of somebody whose affections are on things above, not on things on the earth. And so, I hope you understand my point. We got to keep from doing evil things, absolutely. But we need to get to a position where we're saying, I'm not doing those evil things because I love the things of God more. I'd rather do the things of God. I'd rather not do the things of the world. My affections are set on things above. Very simple statement that well. We won't even read it all, but 1 John 2, 15 through 17, love not the world. Just don't love the world. And so if I want to be pure in heart, then it is absolutely necessary for me to not only keep my thinking processes straight. Don't let all this bad diversionary stuff creep in. Don't allow my mind to wander off and be thinking about evil things. Think right, love the things that are right, and then make a plan, purpose the right things. Here, I think we would just say, make up your mind. Make up your mind that you're going to do what is right. The classic example of purposing in your heart is the case of Daniel. Remember in Daniel chapter 1, Daniel was one of the young men that the Babylonians took captive, and they were going to train these young men in all the ways of the Babylonians. And so the king had set apart that they'd be fed a very luxurious diet. They'd be educated in all the ways of the Babylonians, but they'd be treated the very best. But it would include a diet of food that the Babylonians thought was the best, but were forbidden under the law of Moses to the Israelites. And notice, Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Daniel turned out to be one of the greatest of all of God's men, Old and New Testament. Daniel's among the greatest. And his greatness has to be directly connected with this purposing in heart. He made a plan in his heart. He wasn't going to do it. So, I think this is critical for us, this idea of purposing in our heart. Make up your mind. Make up your mind what you're going to do. Commit to it. Wholeheartedly commit to it. So I think these things are the key. If I want to be pure in heart, I got to think on right things, love the right things, and purpose to do the right things. Okay, before we go to the result of this, Wayne?
Yeah, I was just going to say that those intellect, emotion, and will are all interconnected. The intellect is what you know. The emotion is what you feel about what you know. And the will is what you do about what you know and causes you to have it. And that's exactly what Jesus was saying in John 4. An hour is coming, and now is, when true worshipers, what you do, will worship the Father in spirit, your emotion, and in truth, not.
Exactly right. Exactly right. It takes all of that together. Exactly right. James.
Thinking of your 3 points, to love the right things. You know, we know we love God. We know we love His attributes, but to go along with that, in Romans the 12th chapter, it tells us not only to love what is good, but abhor what is evil. And sometimes I think we don't see the distinction. We allow us to love the world some, and the things of the world, and maybe not love it, but not think of it as bad, all that.
I don't love it as much as God, maybe.
Right.
At least I like to claim that.
It doesn't make us sick when we see sin.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a really good point. So I love God. I mean, I'd be glad to profess that to you. But I kind of like this worldly stuff too. No, I'm supposed to hate the things of the world and love God. Really good point. Joseph.
Psalm 119, verse 11, I think really summarizes what you're talking about here. Your word I have hidden in my heart, that I might not sin against you. And I think that's the real purpose, is having God's word in our hearts really helps our focus to be on Him.
Exactly.
To not have those sinful thoughts and those sinful actions and turn from Him.
I think exactly right. Well said. I think that's right. Okay. All right, let's get in the last minutes of our class. Let's get to the result. Every one of these Beatitudes says, blessed, something, and then this will be the outcome. This will be the result. So the result, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Now, my question is, what does that mean, they shall see God? I think the easiest answer to that is that it's a promise of heaven. And I'm not opposed to that understanding at all. I think it's actually accurate. Go to Matthew chapter 25, where Jesus was depicting the judgment scene. Matthew 25:31, when the Son of Man shall come in his glory and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit on the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations. He shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say to them on his right hand, come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. You know, this judgment scene, and you know, this is a true picture of how it will be ultimately in judgment. And the unpure in heart are not going to see God, in the sense they're not going to be rewarded with heaven. It's necessary. If you're going to go to heaven, it's necessary to be pure in heart. Right? And so I think probably the very easiest way to understand the promised result, they shall see God, is to say, well, they'll be with God in heaven. And I don't have any problem with that at all. But I want to challenge your thinking just a little bit. Really all of these Beatitudes seem to focus not exclusively on eternity, but also on now. That there's a blessedness, there's a benefit, there's a result that we reap now from engaging in these ways and having these characteristics. So I'm not arguing. Blessed are the pure in heart; they will see God. They get to go to heaven, and the unpure in heart don't get to go to heaven. That's certainly true. But could it also be that to see God is to the idea as to sort of comprehend, to sense, to understand? Look at Matthew 13:15. Jesus said, this people's heart is waxed gross, their ears are dull of hearing, their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears and should understand with their hearts and be converted, and I should heal them. Notice, lest at any time they should see with their eyes. Well, he's not talking about literally seeing something. He's talking about comprehending something, understanding something, sensing something. He said, these people can't see. Right? They can't see things as they truly are. Their hearts were corrupt, not pure, and they couldn't see God's truth and the advantages that God was offering to them. They couldn't grasp it because they weren't pure at heart. So it may be that this "they shall see God" could also mean, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. They will comprehend the reality of God. They'll get a sense of God and his purposes. They'll see it. No, in other words, somebody presents maybe a complicated argument to you, but they work and they try to illustrate and get it all, and you say, oh, I see it. I mean, isn't that an expression that we use? And when we say I see it, we mean I get it. I understand. I understand it now. Thank you for explaining that to me. So, blessed are the pure heart, for they will see God. They'll get it. They'll comprehend it all. They'll be able to understand the whole big picture. Maybe we put it that way. Here's another verse, Ephesians 1:6, beginning verse 16. Paul says, I cease not to give thanks for you, making mention of you in my prayers, that, notice, the eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of his calling and what the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints. I think this is the same idea. Your eyes are open. But he even calls it the eyes of your understanding are enlightened. You're getting it now. You're seeing it. You're understanding it. You're sensing it. And you know what is the hope of his calling. So I would argue that you got to at least take this possibility into consideration. Easiest way to look at it is the pure in heart get to go to heaven. And that's absolutely true. No argument at all. But maybe to see God means to really get it. Wayne?
Yeah, and that's really one of the definitions of the word see.
Yeah.
It is to understand as a result of perception.
Yeah.
And James 2:24, you see that a man is justified by works and not by faith.
Yeah. So it's to comprehend. To comprehend, yeah. You know, you've probably talked to people, most of us haven't, and they just act like they're so confused about the Bible and religious matters altogether. I just don't get it, you know. Well, they're not seeing it, right? Because they haven't become pure of heart, and they haven't committed themselves, and so they don't get it. And our job is to hopefully get them to get it and help them to see it. All right. Any final thoughts or comments? All right. Thanks, everybody. Next week, we will take the next one, which is a little bit challenging. The Beatitude next week, Lord willing, is blessed are the peacemakers. What about that? Maybe I should join the State Department and become an ambassador and try to make peace in warring countries and all that. Let's see what we can find out about that next week. Thanks, everybody.